I'm Lin-Manuel Miranda, and you're listening to Hard Knock Life.
Well, it's the NOC in full color, you see me? The Hard Knock Life, comics, movies, and TV, yeah. Pop culture with a different perspective.
Welcome to Hard Knock Life. I'm Keith Chow.
I'm Britney Monet.
Hi, I'm Dominic Ma.
2 weeks in a row, the three of us are together. It's unprecedented. Well, it's precedented, I guess.
Wow,
it's not
you said that word
how is
inaccurately. This is totally precedented, as opposed to everything else in the world.
Absolutely. It's crazy. So there's a lot to talk about. You know, we should go ahead and just start with the DC and Disarray story of the week. Last time we were on, we found out the Flash is still making the schedule somehow because Ezra Miller met with the heads of Warner Brothers to do a mea culpa. However, Warner Brothers decided to shuffle their schedule again. And remember when Shazam was coming out in December? That's not happening anymore. Remember when Aquaman was coming out in March? That's not happening anymore. So I remember several months back, we were like, when they released the teaser of like, here are all the movies coming out in 2022. And then a week later, I was like, actually, no, they're not. I feel like DC just can't like help fucking up at this point.
But it's not just Warner Brothers as a whole. Only can afford to release Black Adam and is it Don't Worry About Your Darling?
Don't Worry, Darling, the Harry Styles movie. Yeah.
And all of the PR that movie's now getting is like, oh my gosh, they might only be able to like afford to release Black Adam now just because of the PR mess. It's I don't know. Warner Brothers, DC, they're going through it.
I also read somewhere that like Warner Brothers Discovery, the company, lost like $20 billion in like market valuation over the last
$29.9 billion because of everything that has gone on.
So that's cool, I guess.
So it's like they were trying to save money.
That certainly is a big number.
Yeah. But just think about it. They were literally trying to save money by shelving, Batgirl, that Scooby-Doo movie, and a couple other like indie titles that they were gonna shelf. And now they're like losing way more money than they probably intended to lose. Like that's just That's
and it's just like you mentioned about the PR, but also just like the reputation of us. Again, and I say it every time we talk about Warner Brothers, an historic studio like Warner Brothers. The reputation hit it's getting, because if you think about like if you're a filmmaker, if you're a big star. That said, the other big news over the last week is that Matt Reeves actually signed like an exclusive deal to be like, I'm Warner Brothers guy, and I think that bodes well for the Batman sequel and the Penguin show. Even though they did also, they didn't shelve the Batman animated series reboot, but that Matt Reeves is a part of, but they did say like, we're not putting it on HBO. We're going to, sell it somewhere else, which Dominic, you know how I feel about Warner Brothers and streamers. Their big idea is like, we're going to put this, highly anticipated reboot of the Batman animated series with Bruce Timm and Matt Reeves and JJ Abrams and put it on somebody else's streaming service because
Did they do that?
Well,
What?
they said we're not putting it on HBO, but we're not canceling it. If another streamer wants it, we will happily sell it to them. And it's just like
now everyone's like, I heard
That's
people saying, what if
a
Disney
little-
buys it?
Can we call it passive aggressive or passive incompetence? I mean, is that a plan?
I think Netflix and Apple Plus are the ones that are like bidding in a bidding war for the Batman animated series or something. It's like,
Yeah,
that's fine.
Can I also just go on record as saying that I could skip the Penguin series? You can shelve that one if you want. No one really wanted that one real bad.
Well, I'm interested at least. Put it this way though,
Sorry, go ahead. I interrupted you.
No, it's fine. Aside from Matt Reeves, right? Like he's the one filmmaker who's like, sure, I'll throw my lot in with Warner Brothers. I would think if you're a filmmaker, would you even want to like board the sinking ship at this point?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like the Batman though, it was very successful. So it's kind of like, as long as he kind of keeps the same process going, I feel like he'll have another, successful hit with the Batman 2 or whatever it will be titled. But in terms with everything else, I don't know. I think no. If I already knew I had one successful hit under their belt, at least that was both critically acclaimed and like audiences loved it, then maybe I'd be a little bit okay. But I don't know. It's just, I just feel like, it's major karma for them pulling movies that they probably shouldn't have pulled, is why they're now in the spot that they're in. So
Are you disappointed you have to wait 3 more months to see Shazam?
yes, because I really have been wanting to see Shazam. Like I love that movie. First one's so good. Disappointing. Like I was not going to see Avatar on the day that it was up against it. Like I might have been the only person seeing Shazam that day, but I was, at least.
Yeah, again, what was the
I'm loyal.
what do we think the Shazam deal was? Again, I'm not the big Shazam person, but it didn't have any major controversial problems in its production that I know of.
No, they just didn't want to go up against Avatar, I think. And
Fucking Shazam, you can take Avatar.
I mean,
put that out
that's
right
who's excited for
now.
Avatar? Like, are people excited?
Avatar? Come on.
I can't.
That's the one case in which I will root for Shazam. Just to make a principled stand against it.
Avatar is the weirdest IP. Like, who is the fandom for Avatar? Aside from like, I guess people who go to Disney World and visit the Pandora section of Animal Kingdom. But like, is there clamoring for an Avatar movie? It's been 10 years.
No, but it doesn't matter. It made the most money ever at its time.
But again, which is weird. and it's like completely forgotten.
Weird. It was weird at the time.
Yeah, and completely forgotten. It's like
it happened.
No cultural imprint, even though it's like the largest grossing movie of all time.
But James Cameron has this sort of legacy cred that you got to give it to. Like, we think Titanic was going to be the biggest movie of all time at its time. No, there's no reason for it to be, but it was
an actual good movie versus. I'm sorry, I don't think Avatar.
Yeah, well, no, but yeah, we can agree to not agree on that. But it's more of a movie than Avatar's.
This is the one time I'll say that a drama film is actually for sure better than a sci-fi film. No, Titanic is the superior film.
It is a better film. I don't love Titanic either, but I would agree it's better than Avatar.
Well, I mean, maybe we should get 4 sequels for that one. Like they've got 4 sequels for Avatar.
But at least I understand. I mean, Titanic had a cultural imprint, right?
It still does.
Right.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes. Big cultural imprint. Agreed.
Whereas, who the fuck remembers Avatar? Who is the fandom for Avatar? Who is clamoring for more big blue Na'vi people?
No idea. I never hear people quoting that movie. Like, and if they are, I don't realize it because that's how much I don't care about that movie.
Yeah, maybe it's just us and we don't care about Avatar and it's really like the biggest thing. Maybe it's like, Flyover Country loves them some fucking blue cat people and we just don't get it.
Yeah,
I think it's one of those cases where there may not be love, but it's fine because it's going to be big and effectsy and James Cameron-y. There's certain level we had a misconception because the movie studios on their executive level are not talking about love for things. Filmmakers are talking about love for things.
I mean, the Zaslav whole deal is all about that.
Movie studios executives are talking about the level of checking boxes, which is it's big and James Cameron, and there'll be big action pieces. And everyone will just wind up seeing it, not with love, but let's be real. We and zillions of families are all going to wind up seeing it somehow. And that's good enough. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There doesn't have to be any love involved.
Well, but what's also interesting, thinking of the corporate synergy and the economic financial, aspect of that franchise. One of the reasons it was one of the biggest gross movies of all time is that it came out in 2009 during the big 3D boom where everything was in 3D and the big appeal of Avatar was seeing it in 3D because it felt immersive and you were on Pandora and blah 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 blah. And 3D technology, no one, they don't release movies in 3D anymore. No one
that
cares.
Actually phased out.
Exactly. The 3D
interesting
fad is gone, and yet the time gap between Avatar 1 and Avatar 2, the entire 3D fad has faded and is Avatar 2 going to be in 3D? Are we, and who's going to want to wear 3D glasses
4D, man.
in post-COVID movie theaters? You know what I'm saying? I don't want to put that shit on my face.
Yeah. No. I did see Spider-Man No Way Home though in 3D.
Oh, really? Are they still I didn't even know they were doing movies in 3D anymore. That's my thing.
That movie literally has multiple dimensions too.
Yeah. They are, but it's very limited. So it was just like because we wanted to see the movie at a certain time, that happened to be the like yeah. So that's the only reason why I saw that in 3D. Other
Whoa.
than that, the last movie I saw in 3D was I want to say Age of Ultron, which is funny that
Whoa,
they're
that's a
both
time
Marvel
gap.
movies.
Wait, no, now I'm fascinated by the fact that you saw No Way Home in 3D. Like that scene where, the scene where Garfield shows up and he's like way far away down the alley. Like, was that like that? That's like exactly the scene that is more punchy in 3D classes. Do you know
Yes,
what I'm saying?
that part looked better in 3D, and also the whole like train sequence between Doctor Strange and Spider-Man where they're on top
Oh
of
my
like yeah,
God, you're
that looked
right.
really cool in 3D. But
That's a fucking
other than
3D scene.
that, the rest of the film, I was like, this didn't need to be in 3D.
Mm, mm, gotcha.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to bring up
Whoa.
in our DC pity party part of the podcast is actually not so much of a pity party. Remember when they made the announcement of the Discovery merger and the big news was David Zaslav wanted his own Kevin Feige to run the DC film franchises, and they had this 10-year plan they wanted to put in place. Well, it looks like they found their guy. The Hollywood Reporter has a story out about the producer Dan Lin being in final negotiations to take over DC films, and not just DC films, but all DC properties in film and television, which is a big deal because, as we've mentioned many times on this podcast, there was always a big wall between the film division and the TV division in DC. And Dan Lin will allegedly be in charge of all of it and be the, quote unquote, Kevin Feige of DC. One, do we think this is going, all intents and purposes, Walter Hamada was the president of DC Films. One cool thing, Dominic, is like there's an Asian American guy being replaced by another Asian American guy. So that's kind of cool. But do we think Dan Lin is the answer to DC's,
Well, I don't think
biggest problem?
anyone is extremely happy with the Walter Hamada phenomenon.
Yeah,
But-
particularly Ray Fisher.
And then all this, I'm just asking, do we know this guy? Do we know,
Dan Lin?
do we know
Well,
this guy?
he's a
do you know what he
producer
does?
on the Lego Batman and the Lego movies.
He was a producer on Lego Batman movies.
Yeah,
Lego Batman rocks.
Yeah, so that's excellent.
So based on that, I will say I am excited for him to take over and see what he does. But I just hope that he is someone who, like Kevin Feige, has a genuine love for the DC comics and characters. Like, Kevin Feige has a genuine love for Marvel characters, even though we've all said not every single Marvel adaptation has been perfect. It's still always done with like someone who actually genuinely loves the comics and stories. So I'm just hoping that will be Dan for DC and that it will be a smoother plan and things will run better, hopefully, just because it's like I said last time, it's just really sad and frustrating that DC has some of like, the greatest characters in comics, and yet there's people who still don't believe it because of all the like stuff that's basically going on.
yeah. Well, Dan Lin is a very prolific producer in Hollywood. He's got a long resume. His most recent movie is the Joe Coy movie, Easter Sunday. He was a producer on that.
Hmm.
And he's as I said, he did all the Lego movies. He's got a lot of franchise, experience because he did the Lego movies. He did the It movies. Interestingly, you mentioned like, I hope he's a fanboy. And he was a producer on the canceled Justice League movie that George Miller was going to direct back in 2008. And he was on a podcast recently when they asked him, like, what's the one thing that got away? And he said DC, because he was ready to put out the Justice League movie, and the writer's strike happened and the movie got canceled. But he said DC is the franchise that got away. So
That's awesome.
there's a possibility he's got some, like fanboy bona fides. And the George Miller Justice League movie, I think, is fascinating too. I'm waiting for the documentary about what that movie was going to be. But Dan Lin was a producer on that movie, and I don't know. I feel like
Right.
I have it's the one glimmer of hope
Right.
that I've seen in the last several weeks since this whole DC Discovery debacle. Hey, alliteration. How very DC of me.
Yes.
So I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, because like Kevin Feige struggling through the trenches of some earlier Marvel movies and producing them, that gives the sense of some continuity, which is hopeful. I'm not saying like, power centralization in one guy is automatically a good idea,
autocrat, the DC movie autocrat.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what everyone always asks for. Right? Like we all want the benevolent dictator. Like we need a Kevin Feige.
Right. And just be careful what you wish for.
but
But also something better than nothing, because from the outsider's perspective, it does look like there is no one at the head of their thing. It looks like it's like probably like a lot of emails going to no one. When in charge of this DC thing, well, I don't know, just put off the movie another 3 months. So it does seem like that. So something's better than nothing.
And to me, what's exciting is they're putting him in charge of DC films and television to kind of break down the wall between those two divisions, because again, that's been the problem for decades, not just the last several months. This whole idea that like, well, the movies are over here, the TV's over here. So we'll see. I mean, who knows? Again, the hard thing about DC is that do you even want to make it a connected shared cinematic universe? Because the two biggest films in the last 10 years since the Marvel Cinematic Universe launched were movies disconnected from anything else, right? The Joker movie and the Batman. And then even the Dark Knight trilogy came out in the midst of Marvel's ascent too. So like their biggest things are not connected to each other whatsoever.
Yeah, but I feel like Batman is always going to, because he's literally probably the most popular superhero. Everyone, I think, on some level likes Batman. So it's just like anything with Batman or related to Batman and Gotham will always, I feel like, do well in some type of like, which is why I think it's still dumb that they didn't release Batgirl, because it's like anything related to Batman is gonna do great. Like that's why I don't understand that logic of pulling that movie. But yeah, I feel like Batman stuff is fine. You don't even have to worry about Batman stuff, but non-Batman stuff, yeah, it's a hard sell because just everyone likes Batman, whatever, even if like people's favorite version is, the Batman running with the bomb, like, like everyone has a Batman that they like and they will still watch all the other Batman stuff regardless. So I feel like it's harder to sell the other characters versus Batman.
I mean, it's interesting that you bring that up, Keith, because like I don't know what the word for this is, but what the MCU has done is gotten this power of continuity and the fandom just thinking about things between movies all the time. We're thinking about it constantly, the connectivity and the like serial relationships, right? And that's again, I don't know what the word for this metric is called, but that's worth like $1 zillion,
right,
to entertainment heads. And they don't have that with DC. They haven't harnessed the power of people wondering what happens between Birds of Prey and Batman, because we cannot officially make that connection.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if this is the word, but like what I've said for years is that the thing that Marvel figured out is that we're not going to make movies. I've said this all the time. The MCU is the world's most expensive television series, right?
Yeah, it works like a television series.
Like they're designed to be binged the way you binge a TV show. And that's kind of why their most successful entries have been the ones where they hired TV directors to kind of match a certain house style. And when they stray from that formula, you get a movie like Eternals or Multiverse of Madness or Thor: Love and Thunder, where like the director's like, here, let me put my auteurist vision, and it doesn't necessarily match with the rest of the MCU, and people go, I don't know, it's a little too Raimi, it's a little too Chloe Zhao, it's a little too Taika Waititi. And
Multiverse of Madness rocked, by the way.
Well, but the biggest complaint is it didn't look like a Marvel movie. And big news coming out of Marvel this week is that they found the director for Fantastic Four, and it's the guy from WandaVision. So it's almost like, yeah, let's bring the TV people back in to do our movies again.
I don't like it.
I don't like it. What's that mean?
I don't know. I think because WandaVision, like, it started off like really well for me and kind of went and I don't know if it's his fault or if it's like other stuff that made the WandaVision overall not be what I think the first like 2, 4, I don't know, it's just really honestly that last episode is just like not it for me. Right. But it makes me kind of worried. I'm like, I don't know if we're not going to get a good Fantastic Four movie again.
I mean, but I think like Dominic said, though, it doesn't even matter at this point. As long as it ties into the rest of the MCU, it's going to be successful.
Right, but
Yeah.
that was I understand your point, Keith. That was a little bit cynical though, and I don't want the three people listening to this podcast to think we're in favor of everyone adhering to house style, because that is not ultimately the goal. I mean, again, we talked about many different times. The alternate is DC, where it is actually a little bit more auteur based with wildly varying results. Okay, so and Marvel is more the house style place, also with varying levels of how good it's executed.
Right.
But I don't know. Back to the abstract question, I would just think they're gonna keep making Batman movies, but like, like how in the comics, like their last events are all like really Batman events, but they try to make them DC Global Universe events. Like I'm speaking of like Death Metal. You know about that?
Yeah.
Right. So that was just a really big Batman story, but it was sort of framed as a DC universe changing story. So somehow they got to have it both ways there. It's basically it's Batman's world and things happen in it. And I don't know if they can they can brand DC movies as this, but I think that's what part of them wants to do. Like
Brittany said, Batman is the most popular superhero. There's a reason why everything kind of revolves. I mean, I know you guys aren't real toy people, but like McFarlane Toys, when they got the DC license to produce action figures based on DC characters, the big criticism against them is the same thing. It's like, oh, you got the license to make DC figures, yet 95% of the toys you put out are Batman. Because that's what sells. That's what people are looking for on the shelves, right? They want to see the Batman, and maybe you'll put a Green Lantern here and a Flash there, but the case pack out needs to be 3/4 Batman.
Yeah. Also, I don't know, and the coffee is kicking in, so this may be a little bit weird, but I think that the Batman centric thing kind of works. I see why it works in the movies, because Batman is at base a human being, and what I'm saying is it's fun when Batman runs into Green Lantern and Superman and weird shit like that. It's fun because it gives you a point of view. It gives you sort of an anchor. And it's always funny because he's always kind of like, dismissive of them, and
right.
You have powers from a magic alien space fish or something. That is just so I don't know. I guess I'm saying the Batman centric thing does accomplish something in the filmic storytelling too, because it gives you this human anchor point.
And I think the big thing is that
it's debatable. That's just what I was thinking.
No, I actually agree with you. But I think one thing that like DC could learn from Marvel, and Brittany mentioned this earlier, is that Marvel uses the source material as a jumping off point to tell their cinematic stories, right? Like Civil War isn't the Civil War from the comics, but it's taking a recognizable storyline from the comics and adapting it to the universe they've built. Whereas DC never really adapts like storyline. They adapt vibes from the comics, right? Like the Dark Knight trilogy, the Batman, they all kind of pull from the Frank Miller year one milieu. You know what I mean? But they don't actually adapt the year one story. They don't really adapt Dark Knight Returns. Like Zack Snyder loves him some Dark Knight Returns. Like we're so much so that the costume that Batman wears is the Frank Miller armored suit, like come to life. But it's not the actual Dark Knight Returns. So because it can't be, because it's really stupid to make Batman and Superman fight the first time they meet each other, when the whole point of the Dark Knight Returns is that like they've known each other for decades. Anyway, let's not relitigate DVS. But you know what I'm saying? Like they use the vibes of the storyline, but they don't actually use the stories. Like when you were mentioning like how Batman interacts with the Justice League, it made me think of like one of my favorite Justice League stories in the comics is a storyline called Tower of Babel, which is when like Batman like had all these contingency plans to like neutralize the Justice League, and it got out, and then I think it was it Brainiac? It was someone, I forget. The villain uses Batman's notes to take out the Justice League. Like that would be an awesome Justice League movie,
Sure.
But no one on the DC side actually looks at the comics and says, "Oh, how can we turn that story into a movie?"
That's interesting.
Because the only comic they ever look at is Dark Knight Returns and Year One. It's like there are other comics than Frank Miller in the DC canon.
Yeah, I would love to be proven wrong on this. It does seem, I think you're right there, that they haven't really done the storyline thing.
I mean, that might be why the Flash is so popular within the studio right now, because one of the reasons why Ezra Miller decided that they'll just go on an apology tour was that the studio's 100% behind this movie. And this movie is an adaptation of the Flashpoint storyline.
Yeah.
You know,
Which is a good one. The animated movie is good, by the way.
maybe
I
that's
watched
what,
that.
you know, that could be the future of the DC movies, you know, for all intents and purposes. But anyway, that's our weekly discussion of DC's Infinite Crises. Let's take a break, and on the other side, we'll again, as we are wont to do, talk about the other half of the big two coin in the world of superheroes, and that's the House of Ideas. Guess what? Goalie Nutrition is sponsoring Hard Knock Life, and you can go to goalie.com to buy apple cider vinegar gummies, their ashwagandha gummies, superfruit gummies, and super greens gummies, and you get 10% off plus free shipping if you use the code HARDKNOCK at goalie.com. This is honestly, I've been taking the goalie gummies now for a couple weeks, and I have to say, they're tasty and they're good for you. Have you guys been enjoying the goalie gummies?
I really like them. They're yummy, but it's a nice to add to my like routine of already like I normally take just straight vitamin C, so it's nice to have like extra supplements.
For a long time, people have praised the benefits of apple cider vinegar, and you know, as someone who's had to like drink straight apple cider vinegar sometimes when I'm not feeling well, or you know, I have some joint pain, and your mom is like, drink some apple cider vinegar. It's not the most appetizing home remedy, let's just say.
No,
Right.
it tastes horrible.
Like the apple cider part is like, ooh, does it taste like apple cider? And it's like, no, it tastes like vinegar. But ACV is very good for you. And the fact that Goalie has been able to put the ACV into these tasty little gummies made with pectin and fruit peels, which make them vegan, which is cool. So if you're vegan, you can still rock these gummies, because everyone knows gummies are usually made out of like gelatin and nasty shit. These are made out of complete non-GMO, gelatin-free, gluten-free, vegan ingredients, and you can get the benefits, all of the benefits of apple cider vinegar, taking these tasty, delicious, convenient gummies. So go to goalie.com and use the code HARDKNOCK, that's HARDNOC, just like the podcast you're listening to. Get 10% off your purchase of Goalie products and free shipping.
It's a much better delivery device for that apple cider vinegar.
Yeah.
These goalie gummies are great. You get
I
it, and it's
agree
a
100.
delicious little candy. And I've been enjoying the superfruits one. I did feel kind of refreshed after taking a few of those.
Yeah, no, but I'm loving them so far, and they're definitely tasty. If you just want tasty gummies, at least just eat them for the yumminess.
Yeah. So go to goalie.com, use the code HARDKNOCK, HARDNOC, get 10% off your purchase and free shipping at goalie.com with the code HARDKNOCK. Hard Knock Life is being sponsored by Athletic Greens. I want to talk to you about Athletic Greens. With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. Basically all the things. One of the best things about Athletic Greens is that it's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. It also contains less than 1 gram of sugar and no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, and it still tastes good. Athletic Greens uses the best of the best products based on the latest science with constant product iterations and third-party testing. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day, that's it. No need for a million different pills or supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is partnering with Hard Knock Media to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/emerging. That's athleticgreens.com/emerging to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Before we talk about this week's She-Hulk, as of this recording, we're recording on Sunday. It is the 2-year anniversary of Chadwick Boseman's passing. And I was reminded when I logged into my Facebook memory that popped up was my utter shock and disbelief when I learned that he passed away. So kind of like a depressing way to start this half of the episode, but has the shock worn off at all 2 years after? And considering we're getting a Black Panther movie this year too, so
No,
it kind of brings it back up in a way.
no, because it's just he's one of those people that like you would think would still be here. and it's still always a shock because I feel like he had not just with Black Panther, but just so much more to give.
He was so
you know?
young.
Yeah, and like I was looking forward to him doing that movie where he's playing, was it like the first Black Samurai? That sounded like that would have been great, and it's weird. And I finally saw Wakanda Forever in like a trailer in a theater, or no, did they show it? I don't remember if they showed it before Thor: Love and Thunder, but I don't know. It stood out to me when I saw it the other day because I saw Bullet Train. So yeah, I don't know. It's just so just so weird that he's not here. He gave us so much with what little time he had, but yeah.
Yeah, for real. I mean, I was going to comment in a more broad way, which is that I'm one of those people who start to condense the last 2 years together. Sorry, it's
No,
2022. Is this 2020 and 2021? Like I've sort of mashed 2020 and 2021 together.
So did like the universe. So it's not just you.
But it's also not good because I remember in the climate of exactly 2020, there's so much chaos, so much shit happening, and that also happened. You remember it was like that feeling of cascading, like holy shit, that's a whole other.
It's like it literally felt like
that
this must be the end of the world, right?
Yeah.
Like we must be like at the very end. We're on the last page of the book because how much worse can it get?
Yeah, no, it was overwhelming. And then I struggled to remember because I was swore someone like, oh yeah, they started releasing the Black Widow came out in 2020, right? But it didn't. Black Widow came out in 2021, right?
It was supposed to come out in 2020.
Oh, okay. So all the movies started returning in about 2021. I mean, I'm talking about the Marvel movies and stuff. And I just condensed those things in my mind, probably because I just could not really remember the size of 2020 and how little was happening in movies and how much was happening in sort of the daily tragedy of nonsense. I was like, wow, 2 years ago, and that was just all that was going on, just one shitty thing after another.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and I think what compounds the shock of Chadwick's passing, aside from it also happening in the most tumultuous year.
Yeah, and let's not forget that Black Lives Matter protests were going on every single day.
Right.
And that was.
It wasn't just the pandemic. It was
in 2020 we weren't even like tripping on superhero movies so much.
Right.
So all this other shit going on.
People finally like confronting racism, and then the backlash to the backlash.
And we had to elect a freaking president.
Right. With that staring down the barrel of potential autocracy. And then even though it happened a week into 2021, then there was a fucking insurrection. So like it was a wild year. And it started with like the death of Kobe Bryant. You know what I'm saying? Like
that too.
But what made Chadwick's death so shocking, I think, on top of all of that, is no one knew he was sick.
Yeah.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's one thing if like the news was Chadwick Boseman has cancer, and then 6 months later, Chadwick Boseman. Maybe it wouldn't have been as shocking because like, oh, he has cancer. Because we talked about this on the podcast. Remember, like people were clowning Chadwick when he was like showing up in paparazzi photos, or I think he did like a zoom in COVID appearance on some website or something where he was very skinny, and people were like, hey, what's wrong with him, and that's the fact that no one knew. And then to think that like he had this disease while he was filming Endgame, while he was filming Black Panther, and the rigor that he was putting his body under while also suffering and dying from cancer. That's what I think really supercharged how shocking his actual passing was, because like no one saw it coming.
Well, I think most people thought he was losing weight for some role, because I mean, if you ever seen the movie Silence with Adam Driver and Andrew Garfield, they got very like sickly skinny in the both of them in that movie. So it's just like it's hard to gauge when it's an actor if they're losing or gaining weight because of actual health issues in their life or because it's for a role. And I know we should never assume, and like we all probably do need to be better at judging people's appearance and poking fun, but again, it was just most people thought he was losing weight for a role, and they're like, he does not look good. And it's unfortunate that it happened. He had to turn off his comments on stuff because people were being so harsh, but which people need to really think about what they say. But at the same time, no one knew. People just thought he was just losing weight for a role.
Yeah. I mean, so it is kind of wild to think it's been 2 years, because to Dominic's point, like it's just wild to think 2 years have passed since
Yeah.
all of that. Yeah, a lot has changed, a lot has happened in the last 2 years. But I don't have a segue. I don't know how to jump into like something as frivolous as She-Hulk, but the other Marvel thing
Is on episode 2, and episode 1 came out 3 years ago.
right,
as far as
exactly.
I
It was
know.
3 weeks between 3 years.
Sorry, it was 1 week, but
Yeah, who knows?
But I don't
It
know.
felt like 3 years. So yeah, we 2 episodes in She-Hulk. Are we feeling it? Are we not? I know Brittany's kind of like mid on
I like episode 2 a lot more than I liked episode 1, but still, I don't know. I just wish I think the whole like changing her origin is really like bothering me, and I know I should like drop it.
Get over it.
and I know I need to get over it because it's not going to be the same as the comics, but like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it is harder when you have read the comics and you like a certain version of it, and then the adaptations aren't what you really want. But like I said, Tati is not the issue at all with the show. Like, she's a great actress. I just think that I feel like they want to be adults, but then at the same time, they're like, oh, kids might be watching this, so they hold back. So I feel like that's maybe where the disconnect is. You know, like they're trying to keep it where obviously she's an adult woman, so she's going to be going through adult problems. But then it's like, but we got to kind of have a certain line because there are going to be kids watching this probably. So I feel like that's where like there's a disconnect because they almost go there, but then they don't. And you're like, oh, okay.
what
So,
was there? I don't recall what was like a mature thing in this particular episode.
just like,
Like I don't know. I mean, like
What
that's
was
something that
mature?
would be borderline TVMA that they would
I just went
otherwise.
between, at least from between the both, like the
What
two
was it, mature
episodes.
thing?
Like it feels like they're trying, but they're not. I don't know. That's how
I mean, because I know
No,
there's
I
like going to
mean-
be like a whole dating like
There's going to be
episode
dating and
coming
sex
up.
stuff.
Yeah, there will be dating and sex stuff coming up, but I don't know.
But to what you just said, I think that's really interesting because there have been already opportunities to introduce that, but they haven't done it yet. And I was talking about this with a guy I know who's like a casual fan, but is mainly concerned about what he can watch with his kids. You know, that's like the
Mhm.
big like schedule maker thing for him. And they said, well, you know, Miss Marvel is the one that's officially rated for kids, and She-Hulk is a legal comedy and is light and funny. But if we're going from the comic basis, we know it gets to be like, well, a lot of sex and dating stuff, which we think of as
Mhm.
sex positive stuff, but you know, more than average sex and dating stuff for a Marvel thing. And it's right, they haven't quite got there yet. And I wonder if that's part of the feeling of madness, if it's in that weird line between needing to be kid stuff and wanting to break through to adult themes. I don't know. I like that it is a comedy. It is like structurally a 30-minute sitcom.
I mean, this one in particular,
Mhm.
but when it turns out her dad is cousin Larry, I
Yeah, it is cousin Larry.
I screamed. I literally screamed when I watched She-Hulk episode 2 and saw cousin Larry.
Standing tall on the wings of my dreams.
The probability of Bronson Pinchot now appearing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe has increased exponentially. We may
As
just
the
get
leader.
we
You
just
and
may
your
get
conspiracy
a
theories.
Balky cousin Larry Perfect Strangers reunion in the MCU. And if that happens, then yeah, it deserves all the awards.
Yeah, okay, like that family scene was like a typical sitcom trope, and I would say yes, that's one that I could have skipped in favor of like a more adult She-Hulk getting the dating scene and like figuring out some gender issue stuff. Like I think that to me that family sitcom thing was fine, but it was the most like easy.
Mhm.
And also, like, it does kind of undermine Bruce Banner's story in a way because it's like, so he had this like goofy family all along.
Yeah,
and he
like
doesn't-
what the fuck? He's like this
Well,
loner
not his immediate
scientist.
family because his dad was not. His dad.
Well, like, I mean,
Right.
I don't know
but
how
the
he's
cousins
related, but,
apparently
like,
have
but
like
still.
a very robust, like fun, like I don't know, do you guys have that? Like your cousin has like the much funner family than your personal atomic family? I don't know. That's never been the case.
okay, I
to
mean,
me,
and even Marklin Baker says, like, you're not even the first Hulk in the family. Laugh track there,
Yeah.
right?
but- right.
It's fine.
I did like the after credit scene though, where they had her doing all the like
All the chores.
all the chores and like lifting all the like carrying all the waters and like all of that. That was great. That was
Yeah.
a nice touch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't hate it.
You don't love it though.
Yeah, I would say Miss Marvel, even though there's some things that I wish they had done a little differently. I still like Miss Marvel so far better than She-Hulk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like, just on the optimistic side, I would say like it breaks from convention a little bit. There's not a big fight in this one, and people who are critical of the onslaught of superhero movies will rightly note that there's a formula in every one that they stick to pretty adamantly, which is there has to be some big stupid super powered fight. I'm just being the other side of like, we all like that. I like that there's a stupid superhero powered fight and everything, but it's okay that they do a show that is just about her having a job problem, but just about a superhero.
That's not, to me, that's not the issue. I just
Okay.
feel like it's like not fully, like it's just missing something for me, and I don't know if it's like them changing her origin story or if it feels like they want to kind of be a little bit more adult, but then they don't. So I don't know what exactly it is, because I feel like Tati is like I said, like she acting wise is like would be perfect. I think sometimes the CGI of like She-Hulk is still a little like for me.
I felt like the CG in this episode was a lot weaker than the first episode. I thought that the first episode was actually quite strong, and there was a lot of it in the first episode. But yeah, this episode, it almost was like you could tell the filmmakers were going, yeah, we probably shouldn't use so much She-Hulk, because like there was 2 instances where they were like, hey, you can't be She-Hulk anymore. So she had to like revert back to Tatiana or Jennifer, because it was like it's easier to shoot Tatiana than like having to use the CG. So
yeah, and that's why my whole original point was they always should have cast the actress who is closer in body type and height to what She-Hulk is. Like, because then because there gets to a point in the comics where she always looks like She-Hulk, and that's it. She doesn't try to look like little Jin anymore. So I just feel like they should have went with what the end kind of process is going to be with her character, like Captain America, and and just having when you need the little person or the smaller person, you do what they did with Captain America. Like, I don't know why the littler switch between Captain America, like Chris Evans looking small, looks better than like I don't know. They should have done something different. It's nothing against Tatiana and that she's not a great actress. It's just She-Hulk.
It is out of the bag now, unfortunately, but we take your point, and then they could have just shot her with camera tricks so that she looks 7 feet tall and everything. Probably without, I just question whether they would have found that actual 7 foot tall person. That's my lighthearted critique of what your argument.
Yeah, but I feel like it's easier to at least find an actress who is at least taller than 5'6" and a little bit muscular, curvier, and there's a couple of actresses, like I know they already had Elizabeth Debicki in Guardians of the Galaxy, but she's like 6'4", and they just could have made her look a little bit taller. She's and
I forgot that. And
there is actresses out there who are taller, or some of them are undiscovered, unfortunately. But that's why.
And for what it's worth, Elizabeth Debicki's character is not that big a deal that they couldn't recast. I mean, Gemma Chan was also a Marvel character in Captain Marvel before she was Cersei.
Michelle Yeoh is 2 things in the Marvel universe.
That's right, because she was a cameo in Guardians as well. Speaking of double duty, I don't know. Again, terrible segue. What do we think of Tim Roth's return to the MCU? I kind of loved the Abomination.
I liked that scene a lot. It was good.
Were you inspired to write any haikus after that?
I'm going to. Yeah, I'm sad we didn't get to hear all the haikus because she didn't want to hear them. that was a funny bit too. But I'm sure they're on the extra material somewhere. Yeah, and I thought that was the closest to being like a real sitcom, a classic sitcom scene of like a funny weird bit that you weren't kind of quite expecting, and Tim Roth doing sort of a caricature, and it being like, I'm sure it's being played for laughs. It was kind of reminiscent of what's his face that Kingsley does in Iron Man 2, which was also kind of funny. And it was, but with a layer of creepy, because he's talking about like 7 soulmates, and like that's a funny line, but like that's also what Charles Manson does. Do we really want to let this guy out into the world?
And we kind of agree the 7 soulmates are the Thunderbolts, right? Like, was I the only one who picked up on that? Or
okay, if you say so, Keith.
All right, maybe it's just me. I thought he was good. referencing
really
the
good.
Thunderbolts.
That could be.
Yep. He's gonna, yeah.
But I'm definitely looking forward, Dominic, to a post on the Nerds of Color in which you take the persona of Emil Blonsky and actually write out what those abomination haikus are.
Okay, yeah, no, I mean,
in character, because I feel like that's right up your
I'll
alley.
write you some haikus, Keith. I was thinking about the other day. And I don't know if necessarily character abomination.
Well,
What did he write to the people who he just like smashed out of existence? I mean,
right. And he even wrote one to Bruce, which was sweet.
Right. They don't actually say. Good point. We'll get into this.
Speaking of Bruce, I think my favorite, other than the abomination scene, my other favorite scene was the phone call between Hulk and Jennifer. I had two questions about. One, he's got really good service to get, like, I don't know if he's got like 7G or something, because he received her call while in space.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Switch to his service.
Verizon or AT&T, whoever was, they should have, sponsored some product placement to show people our calls connect when you're in space. But the other thing that I loved about that scene was, that's probably my favorite fourth wall break so far. Mm-hmm. When Bruce says, like, that fight was so long ago, I'm literally a different person right now. And Jennifer looks at the camera and
he says,
laughs,
I was a different person, literally. And that's great. I have a pet peeve around people saying literally way too much these days, but that was a funny, completely precise usage. The other funny thing about that is, you guys know where the place where you can actually go watch The Incredible Hulk starring Ed Norton is?
Where?
It's not Disney Plus.
It's on HBO Max. What the hell is up with, what the hell is actually going on? What the actual hell is going on? Because the whole point of acknowledging that Ed Norton thing was like cementing the thing that The Incredible Hulk 2008 was unofficially the beginning of this current Marvel universe. I know it's debatable, but let's say there's a strong argument for Edward Norton's The Incredible Hulk started the whole thing, because crossover,
it is because Iron Man is a standalone film. Right. It's Incredible Hulk where Tony Stark shows up and you're like, holy shit, these really are connected.
That was a holy
shit. You know what I mean?
Time. So Disney Plus has been like lassoing in every single piece of Marvel content that they can legally get their hands on. But Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton is on HBO Max. What does that even? What is that?
Yeah. Well, it's weird too, because like I think we talked about this before. Like, Hulk isn't quite in the same boat as Sony and Spider-Man, but I think Universal still owns some sort of distribution rights to the Hulk character, and that's why there can never be a standalone Hulk movie. Like, he can only appear in other people's movies, but if they do an actual Hulk movie, it has to come out through Universal. Which, when you said HBO Max, I was surprised. I thought you were going to say like Peacock or something,
right?
Because it's a Universal film.
The last one, you'd think.
But the fact that they can't ever have, like, when you see Phase 1 in Disney Plus, they can never have the Hulk in that until Disney buys Universal, which may happen. Who knows? But one thing too about this show is that, like, it does finally canonize the Edward Norton movie. I mean, not that the Edward Norton movie was outside continuity, because William Hurt had come back, and but with Tim Roth's return and Mark Ruffalo's kind of like cheeky admission that he's not Ed Norton, like, and the fact that, like, they mention the fight in Harlem, like, those things still happen in the universe, even though it was a completely different character.
It happened over on HBO Max. If you're interested in ever seeing that movie, newbie Marvel fans.
You know what streamers should buy? Batman Cape Crusader, the animated series.
Yeah,
Disney Plus.
That would be a big troll.
I was saying people are saying that, but
that would be awesome. Well, as long as it's floating out there, that idea.
I think that would be the best thing.
It all leads up to Secret Crisis. We're gonna get to Secret Crisis eventually. No, you laugh now, but
JLA versus Avengers, the amalgam universe. We need some.
We're headed for.
We need some Legends of Dark Claw. Oh, speaking of Dark Claw, big Easter egg in She-Hulk. It's one of those blink and you miss it. When Jennifer's on the website, there's two articles in like the sidebar, and one of the articles says man with claws gets to bar fight, and so like the nerd internet freaking out. First mention of Wolverine, And then the second one was my favorite. Like, what's up with the giant man in the middle of the ocean? So it's nice that they're acknowledging Eternals as well, because like there's a big celestial living in the ocean, then no one's talked about it.
That's true. No one has talked about it generally.
So I thought that was really neat. That was, you know, confirmation that Wolverine is in the MCU and that Eternals is in the MCU, because there's some debate if Eternals is actually.
Well, they're having their version of 2020 as well in the MCU. They don't have a pandemic. They just have 10 different things going on at once, and maybe they have their own filtering service, filtering, process.
So anyway, that's She-Hulk. That's this segment of Hard Knock Life. Brittany Monet, what is Nerd Pop?
So as I mentioned, I saw Bullet Train the other day. It was really great. I don't know why people haven't seen it. Aaron Taylor Johnson is in it. He's amazing. I really loved him, and Brian Trey Henry. They're so great together. I honestly kind of want them to do like their characters getting like a prequel or something, or like I don't know, do something with those two again, because those two have great chemistry. They were very fun to watch. For nerdy people, there's a lot of different great people. Yes, Andrew Koji's in it. So many
Hiroki
people.
Sanada.
Yes, there's just so many people. It was fun. I really liked it. I think it is kind of connected to The Lost City with Sandra Bullock too. So
Is it really?
yes, I have some questions. But
Everything's a shared cinematic universe.
everything is now. But no, it was really fun, and I think that's a movie that I will probably actually buy because I really enjoyed it.
Wow.
It was a lot of fun. Like, I don't know, Bad Bunny's in it for a little bit. Like,
Zazie Beetz is in it too, right?
Yeah, she is for a little
like
bit.
a mini Atlanta reunion.
Like, yeah, there's so many people in it, and so like I don't know, it's like if you want a good cameo fest, that's your movie for a good cameo fest. Okay. Just
Cool.
Yeah.
Dominic, what's Nerd Popping?
I was just going to mention, you brought it up earlier in the week. Kathy Yen was in the news to be attached to direct the adaptation of Paprika, which is this anime feature that, gosh, is probably at tens of years old now, or at least 10 years, even though I think it was.
Yeah, I think it came out in the 90s.
Okay. Anyway, it's been around for a while. Fairly famous anime feature by Satoshi Kon, if I'm not getting the name wrong. And that is a long way off and it's an unknown quantity now, but I just wanted to mention it in regards to, we were talking about how everything got messed up in 2020 and it really should have been Birds of Prey year, but everything else, you remember we were talking about at the time, everything else was happening at once. So it didn't even fucking matter that a cool, like Harley Quinn, like person of color led movie came out. In the full context of things, it couldn't compete with everything that was going on.
Right.
But I still think, and for all our complaining, and even to all the haters who don't like Birds of Prey for their various angry dude reasons, that was a good movie. That was a special one, and she did a great job. And it's doing anime adaptations is traditionally always fraught with peril. But I'm encouraged that she's, on a path to make a movie again. I wouldn't want the narrative to ever be that, oh God, that woman fucked up that Birds of Prey movie, so of course she's never going to work. I mean, that is such a horrible perversion of what could have happened out of that whole mess. She did a great job. She did things a lot of people wouldn't even try to do. She did them in a different stylistic way thing that you may not even care about because you don't watch enough Jackie Chan movies. And, she should do more stuff. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my long-winded fan of Kathy Yen's work there.
The thing for me that's cool this week is Rogue One was re-released in theaters, limited theaters, in IMAX theaters only, I believe. Made like $1 million, so it was kind of cool that Rogue One was back up on the big screen. Primarily, it was a promotional thing for Andor, which is coming out in a couple weeks. And revisiting the movie, I had forgotten how good it was.
Rogue One.
Like, I loved it. It's the one I really liked it, but I don't think I ever watched it a second time.
What?
And like rewatching it, it was like, holy shit, this is a really good movie.
You got to rewatch.
Yeah,
Rogue One,
I agree.
Jedi,
And now I
like-
feel bad for not rewatching it, but it really does get me hyped for Andor because, like, not only does Andor look like probably the best Star Wars TV show that we're going to get, more so than Obi-Wan or Mandalorian even.
Yep.
What I really love about what I think we're going to get with Andor is that it really is about the beginning of the rebellion. Like, I love Diego Luna, but I'm actually more interested in the Mon Mothma stuff because like it's real, like that whole political intrigue and you know the Stellan Skarsgård character and all that. Like that's what I'm interested in. So I'm stoked for Andor, and rewatching Rogue One just lit that fire even more.
I believe this is the only second time you've seen it. I've seen Rogue One, I don't know how many times. Rogue One.
I'm honestly like,
I've watched
I'm not in the
hundreds
habit of
times.
rewatching a lot of the recent Star Wars movies. Like I've never seen Solo a second time.
Oh well, Solo.
I've never seen Rise of
Who cares
Skywalker
about
a
Solo?
second time.
But
Who cares about Solo?
you've watched Last Jedi several. I mean, you've had it on more
Last
than
Jedi
once,
I've seen
can I
probably
say.
3 times.
Right. Well, I argue Rogue One is the one that you can say a lot of times.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen both The Last Jedi and Rogue One. It's probably at least
Well,
10.
here's the thing. Like, I mean, this is a mystery that has escaped me for years. Like when people talk about rewatching stuff, like my brother does a Deep Space Nine rewatch and a West Wing rewatch like every year.
Yeah, I do.
And I'm like, where do you have the time to rewatch shit? Like there's so much new shit. Like, and I say this as someone who has an extensive physical media Blu-ray 4K collection.
Yeah.
And I like, it's like books. I buy them and put them on a shelf and I never touch them again because it's like there's just so much new shit to watch that I don't have time to go back and watch my old shit.
Well, we've opened up a huge question and maybe a topic for another day. But are we talking about watch like while the modern form of watch where you're like also on your phone and like whatever?
See that's
chatting
my
with
problem.
someone, or,
I
there's
can't
watching
do that.
and there's watching.
Right. Maybe that's what it is.
But feature-length movies, you can. I know what you're talking about because sometimes I actually sit down without all the other gadgets and rewatch a movie that I think I like.
Yeah.
Just watch it, and I'm like, oh wait, I really do like it.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
incredible. I don't do it as often as I should, but Brittany is just shaking her head at us right now.
Yeah, like I'm up for a Lost rewatch soon. This will be like my 7th, 8th time watching Lost.
that's like 400 hours. Like how are you like?
But are you
Great show.
Are you watching these TV rebinges?
Yes.
I'm not debating the quality of said show. I'm just like, where do you have like? Do you have
don't
like
look
superpower
things
to
up
like
while you're-
freeze time?
Are you at least eating while you're rewatching some of these episodes?
Yeah. Like,
Okay, good.
I make sure. But yeah, no, I love Lost. That's like the show that I gotta rewatch. That and Misfits I like to rewatch a lot. Misfits isn't as long.
No,
as
I mean,
Lost, but
I envy people who
I
have
have
the
kids.
ability.
I have
Well, that
cats.
maybe that's what it
I
is.
have cats,
don't
but I
have
don't got
kids.
kids. I mean,
Big
my
thing.
cat's like watching Sailor Moon with me because we're watching Sailor Moon from the beginning. Yeah.
People with kids binge rewatch things like Cheers. You watch like safe 80s comedies that can be on all the time.
Yeah, you know, as you say this, now I'm realizing one of the reasons I don't have time to rewatch other stuff is that we've actually been in the process of doing an Elementary rewatch. Hell, that probably should be my nerd popping. But if you don't remember, Elementary was the CBS modern interpretation of the Sherlock Holmes story, which recast Watson with Lucy Liu and Johnny Lee Miller as Sherlock. And we've been, you know, my wife and I watched it in real time when it was on the air. But recently my daughter has been interested in watching it. So like in our free time, we've been watching Elementary. So there you go. It's like, not only do I not have time to rewatch, and I'm not that I'm like doing this against I love rewatching this and rewatching. I'm like discovering things that I forgot about or like didn't remember. And it was like, oh, wow, this is really cool. So yeah, you're right. It's just a matter of like, I have no say over what I get to rewatch. And that's why.
Focus, yes.
Yeah, there you go. And like to your point, I could literally just put something on in the background while I'm working or something, but I have no ability to multitask like that, because if I put something on that I'm interested in, like my focus will divert from what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's why I don't do that too. So anyway, that's Hard Knock Life. Brittany Monet, how can people find you on the internet?
You can find me at Hi Brittany Monet on Twitter and Instagram. You can also check out at Naomi Podcast, which is now the backlog of Naomi Podcast, the Black Lightning podcast, and will also be the Lituation Room with, you know, Nate and Vanessa, who you've all met a couple times now. And yeah.
Cool. Dominic?
Yeah, so while you're binging whatever 90 hours of TV shows that if you're kind of divergently not watching them, like feel free to, you know, message me on social media at DOMMAH on Twitter or Instagram.
You can find me on Twitter at @TheRealChow, _real_Chow, and on Instagram at RealKeithChow. Follow the Nerds of Color at the Nerds of Color and go to hardknockmedia.com to find this and all of the podcasts in the Hard Knock family and give us a rating and a review if you do. Find the videos at youtube.com/the Nerds of Color. Like and subscribe there. And support us on patreon.com/the Nerds of Color. Until next time.
As long as you're not a diesel, okay? Just don't be a diesel in life.
That will mean something to people who see Bullet Train.
Yes.
All right. I guess I'll go see Bullet Train next.